as long as you're there. Baby, we can do this all night. Keep on second guessing our love, oh love. I don't really care if you don't mind. Baby, we can do this all night. We can do it all night.
So, good morning, everybody. I hope you're keeping really well, and thank you again for joining us today. It's Jamie and Jacqui live from Educogym, and today we're going to talk about results, and maybe your results have stalled, and maybe you've reached the dreaded plateau, and we're going to talk about what a plateau is. So, I'm just going to bring in Jacqui. Jacqui, you're very welcome this morning. How are you?
Great, Jamie. It's a beautiful sunny morning down here in County Clare.
And you're looking
What's it like
gorgeous,
up?
radiant, and with
Thank
flowers
you.
in the background. It's beautiful.
Yes.
Really does look good. The
The
birthday
birthday
flowers.
flowers, that's
Excellent.
it.
Great. So we were going to talk about plateau, and we for April we've put together a really cool plateau guide, which we're going to show people in a few minutes. And there's just several different things I think that we've from talking to people and experience over the years. It happens to everybody where your results seem to stall. You've got to a certain point, and you've been going great guns. You've been losing weight, or you've been gaining muscle. Your shape is changing, and then suddenly, boom, nothing seems to happen. So I don't know if we from talking to so many people, there's certain things that they need to do and need to focus on to really get their results to start moving again. But what's sort of the first area that you would look at, Jacqui? What do you think makes the difference initially?
I suppose the biggest message that I always try to relate to our clients is that this isn't a quick fix to get a result that you stop doing to go back to what you normally did. And, when you're younger in your 20s and maybe even your early 30s, you will get away with that to an extent. But as you go into 40, and I'm sure 50-year-olds and 60-year-olds will probably agree, it's actually to change your mindset, and it's to change your mindset to a healthier way of living. And that this is an eating plan that you're going to be following 90% of the time. So it's about being consistent. I often find, what can work well too for some clients, Jamie, is not to be consistently weighing themselves. I mean, it really annoys me when I have clients say to me, well, I weighed myself 3 days in, and, they're weighing themselves nearly every day or every 3 or 4 days. And what they have to understand, especially as a woman, because hormones really come into play for a female, that your weight can fluctuate. So you can weigh yourself and be three pounds down and get on the scales the next day and be 4 pounds up. That's why it's always good just to stick to one day, the same day every week and the same time. So if it's going to be morning, stay with the morning every Saturday morning, for example. If it's going to be the evening, stick with the evening. But when you see the scales not moving, that's the part that's, I suppose, really, it's a next step and a challenge to your mindset, isn't it? And that's where you have to not give in. Because we've all been there. I've done it myself, where you just get so fed up and you want to get the scales and throw it out the window. And we've been raised, Jamie, conditioned our whole lives to go by the scales. And I think it's in the last couple of years now that is really changing, because we're becoming truly educated on, building muscle, burning fat, and muscle and fat weigh the same. So if you lose 3 pounds of fat and you gain 3 pounds of muscle, the scales doesn't change, but your shape 100%. Is changing, isn't
Absolutely.
it?
Absolutely. Yeah. One of the things that we would notice with people is that they don't realize how much water weight can contribute to what you're seeing on the scales, and that often happens. When particularly, as you're saying, it's totally true. Make sure that you're weighing yourself at the same time, because you're much more dehydrated in the morning, and you have much more. You're probably holding on to a lot more water by evening time, and your body weight can fluctuate by plus or minus 2 pounds. So that's 4 pounds in total, which is almost 2 kilos. So often people, maybe they have a treat at the weekend or something like that, and they suddenly think, oh my God, my weight's gone up by 4 pounds. And in order to gain 4 pounds in real terms, you'd have to consume something like 14,000 calories extra. So it's each pound of fat is about 3,500 calories. So to do that, 14,000 calories, most people will struggle to eat 2,000 to 2,500 calories. So it's just not going to happen. And that's the first one on our list is water weight. And yeah, beware of the scales, because they don't give you an accurate representation of actually what's happening in your body, whether you're losing fat or gaining muscle. And it is over the long period of time. And people beat themselves up so much. You know, they slip up at the weekend, they're up 4 pounds, and they say, oh my God, all the weight that I've lost, I've just gained it back again. And literally, it could just be water weight. That's actually an interesting point, because often people are following a low carbohydrate diet, and we would notice that, and this is actually not just what we would notice, but it's according to the science that, you know, when you're using up your stored glycogen, so if you're on a low carbohydrate diet, you tend to use up the sugars that you have stored in your body, and they have a lot of water attached to them. So your glycogen molecules have water attached, and so when you use those up, you do lose a certain amount of fluid. So your weight is definitely going to fluctuate. So that's absolutely true. The second one that we have then is that the person's metabolism has slowed down. So maybe you could talk a little bit about that then.
Well, if your metabolism, okay, as we get older, your metabolism is slowing down. So why is it slowing down? That's what a person has to look at. And again, the key message we relate to all our clients in Educogym is that with aging, you're losing muscle, right? So they say, I think it's from the age of 25 or 30, you start to lose muscle at a rate of 0.5 pound of muscle every year. So as that muscle's breaking down, fat's basically taking its place. Yeah. So your metabolism is what is going to, it's the powerhouse, it's your furnace, it's what burns up the calories. So, you know, again, we've been educated into, you know, for many years, calories in, calories out. But that's not going to work. And at a certain point, when people do all this aerobic work and they reduce their calories, they realize that they're actually getting fatter. And the reason they are is because they're losing their muscle. So they need to look at building muscle. So, you know, you've heard us say, how do you build muscle? Well, you need to, 1, increase your protein, and 2, start to lift weights. And when you do that, you're going to build muscle. And muscle does weigh. And, you know, a lot of people think, oh, muscle weighs heavier than fat. It doesn't. A pound of fat is going to weigh the exact same as a pound of muscle, but muscle takes up less space than fat does. So you need to address your metabolism to get that working better. And that's why people can sometimes hit a plateau as well, Jamie, you know, because they're building muscle. So therefore the scales may not be moving. And that's why it's so important to take measurements. And that's what we would do with our clients in the gym. We would get them to measure, because the measuring is more of an indication of actually what's happening in the body, or the calipers, you know, to judge the fat loss with the muscle gain. But muscle is what's going to speed up the metabolism.
Absolutely.
So
yeah, and then the other thing to note is maybe if you're watching this and you're the type of person that's followed because you've thought that it's the right thing to do, maybe you followed a low calorie starvation type diet, and the research also shows that when you follow a really low calorie diet, up to 90% of the weight that you lose can be muscle. So you're losing muscle as you get older, which is causing your metabolism to slow down, and then you follow a low calorie diet, which actually causes you to lose even more muscle, which slows down your metabolism further. And the other thing that they've showed about your following a very low calorie diet for a period of time is actually your thyroid tends to slow up. Mm-hmm. So your thyroid really controls your metabolism. In fact, it's really the gland that affects every cell in the body. And if that slows down, what it's trying to do is protect yourself. It thinks, okay, you're starving yourself, you don't have access to food. It's a survival mechanism. So the thyroid then tends to slow everything up so that you're going to last longer. Now, the unfortunate thing about that is then that your results will plateau. And what will also happen if you're following low-calorie diets over a long period of time is that you'll find that it's harder and harder and harder to lose weight. Mm-hmm. And the same thing can often happen when you do lots of aerobic fitness. In fact, when you do a lot of aerobic fitness, so maybe at the moment, because you don't have access to a gym, you're doing a lot of running. Or maybe you're doing a lot of cycling, and 25 to 60% of the weight you lose when you do that type of aerobic fitness can be muscle. Now, we're again not saying give those up. It's great to be active, but at the same time, you do have to be aware of the downsides. So it's so important to make sure that you're doing resistance-based training to help you to add back lost muscle. I think that's absolutely vital. So
Jamie, it is. And just to stress that point, because the amount of people, everyone's walking now with lockdown. Yeah, they're all out walking. But I'm getting contacted on a daily basis from my clients saying, Jacqui, I'm walking 10K a day and I'm not losing a pound. So, that's where I say, okay, I know the gym isn't open, so you need to transfer onto the online training to do a bit of the resistance training because it's the only thing that works. So, people are pounding the roads, they're running. I had a friend before she ran the New York Marathon. This is a few years ago. She ran the New York Marathon with the goal ultimately of maybe losing weight in the process. But she actually gained a pound because it was her eating, she was eating all the complex carbs. Because she was doing all this running, so she thought she could eat whatever she wanted. So it's important to understand that you do have to look at your food as well to address your metabolism, get the metabolism working better. So what's our next point? Sorry, I interrupted you there.
No problem at all. So the next thing to look at then is food choices. So some food can cause your body to retain water, especially for ladies. And the top offenders are foods that are high in carbohydrate. So one tip, the second half of the word is hydrate. And sodium can often cause you to hold on to water. So excess levels of sodium. So, your density of carbohydrates, Jacqui, it's one of your favorite topics. So maybe talk a little bit about the effect that carbohydrates can have. Obviously not just on water retention, but also on causing a person to maybe hold on to weight.
Okay, well, my pet dislike is when I hear people saying, "Oh, I don't eat carbohydrates at all. I'm not eating any carbohydrates." And I'm always fast to point out you are actually, but you're just eating carbohydrates, in the low density form that they don't produce a lot of sugar. So as I always say, and people would have heard me say before, we categorize carbohydrates in 3 levels. So you have low density, medium density, and high density carbs. So the more we can stick to the low density carbs, which would be things like green veg, green salads, acidic fruits, so your acidic fruits being your berries and your kiwis and your oranges, they're all low in sugar, so they're going to be the best for your circulation, for your waistline, and for your energy. And it's funny, Jimmy, because a lot of people, we are educated also into, eating complex carbs to get results. So lots of porridge and sweet potato and brown rice, but I know in my experience dealing with people, I actually think very few people have a very strong metabolism to digest all that. I think if you're an athlete or if you're doing serious, intense training, yes, you can your body can tend to manage those carbohydrates more. But in my experience, I think that the average person, as they get older, especially, they need to fill up their carbohydrates from those low density, and only occasionally have the likes of porridge or sweet potato. That's only included maybe 2 or 3 times a week. So, and the other thing about water there, that's another thing that when clients come in, I always ask them, how much water are you taking? And, they with pride say to me, "Oh, I'm drinking 2 and 3 liters of water a day." And they're always stunned when I say to them, "We need to stop that." And they're like, "What?" And I always think, well, go back 100 years ago, our ancestors weren't drinking all that water. It's, yes, you need to stay hydrated, and yes, you need to listen to your body there, but you don't need to be going around drinking 2 and 3 liters of water a day. And, the way we sell the distilled water, which is the purest water and the best water to drink, because there is no sodium, there is no, inorganic minerals in there. So people need to watch their water intake for results as well.
Absolutely.
Would you find that too, Jamie?
100%. And there's 2 things that come in for drinking excess water. So I don't know if it's a very Irish thing, but when we were growing up, particularly when we were in school, people would drink a pint of water with their food. Now, one of your main ways of digesting your food is through your stomach and your tummy. And in your tummy, you have this very strong acid called hydrochloric acid, HCl. And you also have pepsin actually to help you break up proteins. So those help with digestion. Now, when you throw in a huge amount of water, you dilute that stomach acid and those digestive enzymes, and it becomes much harder to get the nutrition from your food. So that's one thing to be aware of with water. So try to drink between meals and try not to flood your tummy when you're actually eating your food. The second thing is that when you drink a huge amount of water, you probably notice this if you're one of these culprits, that you are endlessly going to the loo. And the problem with that is that you have lots of water-soluble vitamins and minerals in your system. And when you're drinking excess water and you're constantly going to the loo, you are flushing out a lot of those essential nutrients. So you have to be aware. It's when you're thirsty, it's not a target that you have to drink 3 liters of water a day. You're going to stop yourself from getting a lot of the nutrition and the benefits of your food. So do be careful of that. That's absolutely true. We would find that happens a lot with people. If you're following a low carbohydrate diet, you will probably hold on to less water than if you're following a diet that's very high in carbohydrates, and it is something to be aware of. I think that just to go back to the point that you had about carbohydrates, Jacqui, and people's ability to digest them, you can definitely over time, your digestive tract will work better when you've had them for a period of time. The other thing is to really look at gut health. Sometimes if you don't have the right balance of gut bacteria, your microbiome maybe isn't as healthy as it should be. Sometimes people will struggle with carbohydrates. They have a thing called leaky gut syndrome, where your gut isn't really managing the food particles properly, and sometimes they're leaking through, and that can cause different reactions. So people often think that they're allergic to wheat or gluten, and it's something that they maybe should look at is when we will cover this at some point, is gut health, because it's obviously a very popular topic and a lot of people are doing their best to try and improve gut health. So maybe we'll move quickly. I know we're conscious that we want to try and speed ourselves up on our events so that maybe it's more manageable time for people. So what about portion sizes? Because sometimes over time, I always find that there's sneaky additions happen to the diet. I don't know if you've ever found this, but somebody who follows something like our Super Kickstart diet, which gets incredible results at the beginning, and they follow it letter to the law, they get incredible results. And then a couple of weeks later, they go back on it. Or they come back to the gym, having been away for a period of time, and they try it, and they say, I just didn't get the same results. And when you actually go into it, you find that they haven't really followed it quite the same way. They had an idea of it. They thought that they followed it in a particular way, but they just didn't do it as precisely as they did the first time. So what sort of things can happen, have you found with that?
Okay, so it's funny, Jamie, because I have a client at the moment, and he's on the high fat diet, and he was doing incredibly well. First 2 weeks, bang, great, weight was dropping. Third week, not too bad. Fourth week, weight went up a couple of pounds. And I said, did you stick with it? Yeah, I did stick with it, right? And I said, well, there has to be some, because I know you can hit a plateau, but I was thinking you really need to look at what you're doing. And there's 2 points that I was saying to him that we needed to look at. One, was he eating enough? Actually, because what I have found, especially on the high fat diet, people are just so full from the fat that sometimes they only eat 2 meals a day. And that's fine for a period of time. Mm-hmm. But what I have noticed is that when people actually go back then to introducing the third meal, they start to get further results. So that was one thing I said to him. But I also said, it just doesn't make sense. I just think there's something more. You really need to look at it. So he was saying, well, I'm having a protein ball, because there's, the protein balls with the peanut butter. I said, okay, well, stop that. But then we were chatting a few days later. We were on our Zoom call, and he actually said it to the group. He said, I realized I was having a drop of milk in my cups of tea. Right. And the other thing was he was having our Immune Energy C drink every morning. So it's amazing. Like, you really have to track it out, because, yes, you will hit a plateau. And when you hit that plateau, you really have to be honest with yourself, because, a lot of the time we think, oh, yeah, I am doing it. But I know even myself at times I've looked back and I'd say, okay, well, I forgot I had this and I forgot I had that. So you have to be, to get the best results, you have to follow it to the letter of the law, and you'll produce those results then.
And it's those sneaky things that come in. So when you're following a low carbohydrate diet, you don't tend to have milk, and maybe you have coffee and you start to enjoy cream in your coffee. Because it gives you some extra fats, and then suddenly you find you're going through like a bottle of cream a day. Maybe it's only 100 mils, but 50% of that is fat, and calories do come into it at a point, and especially those kind of liquid calories, because your mind almost doesn't reach the point where you're full. Whereas if you're eating fats, you can get full very, very quickly. They're very satiating. They're very calorie dense. In the liquid form, not so much. So suddenly you find you're taking maybe 50 mils of fats, or 50 grams of fats extra. That's about, that's almost 50 by 9. It's 450 calories. You can suddenly, out of nowhere, suddenly consume 500 calories. So, and calories do come into the point. I mean, your hormones actually tend to balance out and tend to cause you to lose weight. And your body almost reaches its ideal weight itself, like every other animal on the planet. And but it's when we obviously are interfering and are putting extra things in that cause things like insulin to go up and cause you to store fat, that can really make a difference. So we want to moving on to the next point. So point number 5. So hormones, stress, and more. So hormones obviously do really come into it. Our bodies are incredibly complex, and everything from our stress levels to how much sleep we are getting can create hormonal shifts, and that affects how our body functions and how our body uses the food we eat. So what about stress then? What have you found from dealing with people?
With stress, it's amazing that stress can really cause you to hit that plateau. But the other thing is that I would encourage everybody to go back to our talk that we gave on the role of hormones, because I think that people really need to understand insulin and growth hormone. They are the key hormones. But the other stress hormone is cortisol. And, again, the reason why at Educogym we keep our workouts to 15, 20 minutes of high intensity is because the research has shown that growth hormone, which is the hormone we want, because once you produce growth hormone, that's what's going to burn the fat, build the muscle tissue, and rejuvenate the body. But it shows that when at 20 minutes, your growth hormone peaks. And if you keep training beyond 20 minutes, cortisol is another hormone that's following, and cortisol will kick in. So now you're producing cortisol, and cortisol is the hormone that breaks muscle down. It's a stress hormone that breaks muscle down. So that's why you don't often hear us say that a lot of running or endurance training isn't the best, because it produces too much cortisol, which is breaking your muscle down. And remember, guys, we want muscle because muscle is what's going to help your metabolism work better for you. So you look at your training, so you want to keep it to short spurts of training. Then the other thing is that if you are very stressed, you're producing too much cortisol, and we recommend a product called Pantac. So Pantac is really good for your adrenal glands, and they're the glands that help you cope with stress. So when you take Pantac takes probably about 3 weeks to build up in your system, but once it does, you'll find that you can cope better, you're happier, and I think you referenced sleep there as well, Jamie, because I know myself that if I don't get, my 7 to 8 hours sleep, you just don't have the mental focus to stay on plan, because you're just tired and cranky. So, sleep isn't, well, I am anyway. I know. So Pantac is a great solution, Jamie, I find, don't you, for people who...
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, vitamin B5. It's also so important for how your cells function, and particularly for production of energy. So, when you're training, having lots of vitamin B5 is brilliant for your citric acid cycle and for creating energy. There are other, obviously, as I'm having this conversation a huge amount at the moment with ladies, and they're in their mid 40s, 50s. They're talking about being perimenopausal, menopausal, and I always go back to the point of, well, actually, from about the age of 25, your body changes around. So maybe you become more aware of it in your 40s, and obviously there are changes that are happening. But at the same time, it's not that that's going to stop you from getting results. It's not going to suddenly cause you to gain lots of weight. It just really, you just have to adapt to it and know what to do. And the weight training and the right type of nutrition has a massive effect on your hormones. Particularly, as you said, the growth hormone, less cortisol, reducing insulin, and those are kind of a magic combination. And the resistance training also has such a positive effect on other hormones. So as growth hormone comes up, things like testosterone, estrogen, they all really get impacted. So it makes such an enormous difference. So that actually brings us nicely to another point about training, and hopefully you'll be able to see this, but we have here your body has adjusted to your workout plan. So what would you think then maybe about that, Jacqui?
Well, with training, every 6 weeks, it's good to change up something to shock the muscle a little bit, to get the metabolism going better for you. But, a lot of times, Jamie, when it comes to the training, in order to get the best result, right, for your metabolism, it's vital that you go for those very heavy weights. And, you don't have to do it straight away, because obviously when you come into us in the gym, we guide you through it, and we watch you, and we, kind of challenge you every time every other workout, to lift those heavier weights. And a lot of the time clients, they don't want, they're like, I don't want to lift this heavy weight, but that's what it takes to get the result. It's almost like to break through that plateau. You have to push yourself beyond your ceiling of where you're at to get results. It's like anything in life. So, but the big compound workouts are so important. Your squats, your bench press, your deadlifts, they're really important exercises, because I think a lot of the time people think that they need to be changing up their exercise routine hugely, and you don't. Small little tweaks and lifting heavier. And if you can't lift heavy, then what we recommend is that you reduce the weight, but you have to go super fast to get the best result. Is there anything else that you'd add there, Jamie?
Yeah, so it's absolutely true. It's small tweaks make the difference. It's just little small shocks to the muscle, just changing things around. And like you said, so it really what the research behind Educogym showed when we did that original study was when you looked at the data, it's all about intensity. And the more intensely a person trains, the more growth hormone they produced. So the intensity comes from, if you think about it, even just from a physics point of view, it's the weight that you're lifting, it's the amount of time that you're doing it in, and then it's the speed at which you do it. So if you can do it faster, heavier in a short amount of time, then cramming it into a short amount of time, then you really see a difference. Now, if you wanted to measure or have a look at a way of thinking, okay, is this intense? The modern heart rate monitors, so something like a chest strap or maybe some wrist device like an Apple Watch, they will show you what your heart rate measures at. And they've shown in research again that you can produce lots of growth hormone when your heart is over 80% of its max. So how to work out your maximum heart rate, you take 220 and you subtract your age. So let's say if you're 40 and 220 plus 40 is 180. Now, when you can get your heart rate over 80% of your max and you can train in that zone, you'll produce a lot more growth hormone. Now, I've found just from monitoring it over the last couple of months that when you just speed it up and you literally don't rest and you really train, your heart rate just suddenly jumps up. And it doesn't matter how fit you are, it still jumps up and you can get it into that zone. And that's when you're really going to see great results. So I think that it's interesting. You can technology can be quite beneficial when you're training. And I think from that point of view, from measuring your heart rate, I think that really does make a difference. So what else have we got? So that's
and Jamie, just to point out there too, with the type of training we do, which is the short spurts of intense training. And if a client trains as fast and as intense as we would like them to, they probably finish their workout in about maybe 13 minutes, 14 minutes.
Yeah.
And sometimes I think, oh my God, is that too short? Because I know initially when I first started doing all this type of training, I thought, oh my God, is this too short? But it's not. It yields the best result. But you get very fit from that too. So that high intensity without rest causes an incredible fitness. So it does have a knock-on effect on other things, because I know that, like I did the run in the dark in Dublin there a few years ago. I don't run, but I did it in under 60 minutes, and it was I just had the fitness from just weight training. So it does make you incredibly fit as well.
Yeah.
So next point, sorry, I digress.
No, so that's six things to focus on, but we've got 10 ways to smash your plateau. So in let's say in a couple of minutes, we'll just fly through these. But so the first one is actually to start tracking your food. Food diary has been shown to really improve results because you become conscious of what you're having, and it's, as we mentioned before. Certain things can creep in. Maybe portion sizes have gone up in some ways, but tracking your food can be of real benefit, and you really start to see some changes in your results when you become conscious of what you're having. It is important to say that when you're losing weight, and let's say you've lost quite a bit of weight, let's say you've lost 15, 20 pounds, you may need to adjust your calorie intake because now you're lighter. So you often would work out weight gain or weight loss by a certain amount of calories. It does come into it at a point. And so particularly when you've reached a plateau and you need to adjust it. So if you've lost a lot of weight, it is quite possible that you do need to reduce the amount that you're having. The other thing then is checking your activity level. So we know that from training people often can overtrain, right? I mean, that often has a big impact.
Oh, Jamie, hugely so, and especially with people like with that may have conditions. You know, we have a lot of clients that come into us that are in their 50s and 60s, and they have to be very careful about overtraining. I mean, I remember I had this one lady, and you know, because we do unlimited plans, or we do 3 days a week, or you can do unlimited. And you know, I pleaded with her on a few occasions to keep her training to 3 days a week, and she wouldn't listen to me. She ran into trouble with it. So when she came back to me over it, I said, you know, she couldn't argue with me because my advice to her was, you need to limit it to 3 days a week. And that's an individual thing as well. I think you'll know by the person, because if you're training 5 days a week, but your training sessions are kind of mediocre, you're not going to get results. And that's where your metabolism again comes into play. You have to address the type of training you're doing. So often people are better to cut back to 3 days a week, train harder, and they'll see results. They'll start to progress, because there's less stress as well. You know, because sometimes it can be a stress to fit in all those training sessions.
Yeah, absolutely. And what, okay, even if you understand it in terms of hormones, when you overtrain, you produce lots of cortisol. And if you imagine that your muscle is like the engine of a car, it's like a furnace, it's furiously burning your food and your body fat for energy. And if you've lots of cortisol, you can lose muscle, and then your metabolism is dropping. So that obviously is going to impact your results. So it happens a huge amount because we're very much conditioned. The more effort we put into something, the better the results should be. So it is sometimes a question of less is more. Now, on the flip side of it, sometimes people do get a little bit too sedentary. So, okay, maybe they're training 3 times a week and it's 20 minutes. Being active, moving around, going for walks, all that sort of thing really does make a difference. In fact, there's one hormone, which is let me see if I can find it here in my notes. The lipoprotein lipase plays a major role in your body's ability to burn fat for energy. But when you're sedentary, you don't have as much of it in your system. So moving throughout the day can keep your LPL level up, which means your body is able to burn more fat. We're going to give you, by the way, a way that you'll be able to download this guide so that you'll be able to go through it yourself. But doing, you know, I think those trackers where they're tracking your steps and things, okay, I don't think that they're wildly brilliant, but at the same time, it can be encouraging for people to be more, to move more and to do their steps and things like that. So that can help. What about then number 3, eat enough protein?
Oh yeah, sure. You know, that's my favorite one. And it's still one that I'm learning myself, Jamie, because, you know, as we said in other discussions before, as we get older, we need more protein, but the research is showing that people eat less protein actually as they get older when they need it more. So I think if people, as a rule of thumb, if people could just say, look, let's get in 30 grams of protein, you know, at every meal, that's a huge jump. So when you up your protein, obviously that's going to firm your body more. And when you firm your body more, that causes your metabolism to work better. And when you do the whole calories, reduce calories, remember you're usually impacting on your muscle tissue, because generally the calories people are getting in, they're not really focusing it on the form of protein that they're getting in. So you have a little picture up there, you know, eggs are a great source of protein, meat, fish, they're your you know, poultry, they're
First
good
class,
sources of protein. Yeah, your first class ones. So it's important. And you know, it's Jamie, you know, they say you need a gram of protein per pound of body weight to start to really build that muscle tissue. And often people would ask as well, should they still be eating a lot of protein when they're not training? And yes, they need to eat more protein.
Absolutely. Yeah. It's one of the things, because people are worried about calories and they're worried about red meat and things like that. And suddenly they've reduced their levels of protein intake dramatically, or maybe if they're following a plant-based diet, things like that. So yeah, it's so important. Protein is absolutely vital for getting results. Okay. And then what's your alcohol intake?
Yes.
So here's a sneaky truth about drinking alcohol. It actually has much more of an impact on your body and your results than simply the empty calories it contains. Obviously, alcohol will lower your inhibitions. So for anybody who's gone for a night out, then they've noticed that they're eating other things after they've drunk more than they probably should have. And not only that, but research suggests that it actually affects your body's ability to burn fat. I don't know if people realize this, but when you take in alcohol, your body often can burn sugars and carbohydrates before fat. And that's often the way that the body preferences things. But alcohol jumps in there ahead of both. and it can actually stop you from metabolizing fats while you're busy burning the alcohol off, which is interesting. And it can actually often lead to an increase in belly fat. So for those men who think that drinking pints is very manly, pints have estrogens in from the hops, so they act like female hormones. So they might have the opposite effect that you were thinking that they might be having to your manliness. Just saying.
I wish that statement would stop a lot of men drinking pints. But the other thing, Jamie, I remember, Christine, dear Christine, who we used to work with in Bagot Street, she used to always say to clients, now, especially if they were on a strict 12-day or if they were on a strict plan for a period of a few weeks, make sure now if you're going out, you eat your protein first before you touch the alcohol. And, this is years ago. So I was like, why? When I was still learning, and I was like, why is she saying that? But that's the reason, because at least your body, it will slow your insulin level, obviously, so, but it also fills up your body. So you start burning that before the alcohol.
Okay, now what's next? We've got eliminate sugar, sneaky sugar in beverages. This actually often happens.
Yes.
So people say, oh, no, I don't drink Coke, or I don't drink, different types of, we used to say in Tipperary when I was growing up, minerals, but fizzy drinks. But often people are taking some sneaky dilute. So they're taking
my waddies and yes.
Exactly. And they often creep in. So sugar has a way of finding itself into your diet, especially via beverages like soda, fruit juices, flavored coffee and teas, or the chai latte. Somebody convinced me to try a chai latte, and I couldn't believe how sweet it was. I think it was mainly sugar, and somehow chai lattes, maybe it sounds healthier, but it definitely wasn't. So make sure you read the labels, even of beverages you pick up at a coffee shop. And the problem with sugary beverages is that your brain doesn't compensate for the calories, but they also have an effect on your insulin. But that often comes up, right?
Jamie, look, it's as simple as, I just tell people they have to stop drinking all of those things. The things that they can have is water, still water, sparkling water, plain sparkling water, and just tea and coffee, black tea and coffee. They're your basics. But all of these My Waddies or these Diet Cokes or Coke Zeros, they are affecting your insulin, as you just said. So cut them out.
Okay, great. And then the next point we've got is change up your workout. We've covered this already when a person is plateauing, maybe they're training too much, but even just changing their workout does make a difference. So either make it more intense, try a different kind of workout, more or sometimes less workouts during the week. So just depending on how active that you are.
And Jamie, just on that point, can I just say that if people are like we spoke about overtraining, so a lot of people are walking a lot. Like I always say to people, do what's going to be sustainable for you, even when we're out of lockdown. So if you enjoy going for an hour walk every day, you need to bear in mind that if you are doing currently 2 hours and you stop 2 hours of walking and go back to nothing, that will have an effect on your weight. So be careful of that also. So just do the type of training that's going to fit into your lifestyle. Try not to be over, trying to do everything. 2 hours a day of cardio, 5-6 days a week of weights. Won't work.
Absolutely.
Well, it will, but long term it won't.
Okay, so number 7, check your stress levels. So having an overload of stress in your life can really put a dampener on your results. And we talked about it can trigger food cravings. It can disrupt your sleep. So all sorts of things that are going to affect your results. But it also works on a more insidious level, increasing your body's production of cortisol. And when you have too much cortisol in your bloodstream for too long, it can make your body store belly fat. And we have a special note, especially for ladies. That's very sad. There you go. So
on stress, Jamie, can I just say that on anybody who's doing our 28-day online challenge, we have relaxations that we put in there. I think it's twice a week. So remember, stress usually starts with the mind, the thoughts. We've spoke about your mental health. Your mental thoughts are as important as the foods that you feed your body. So I would really encourage people to do a relaxation, and if you don't like it, just still make yourself do it, and just, it's a form of disciplining your mind to free up your mind, and so it's less stressed there's less interference in your body then. So everything in your body, your digestive system will function much better also.
Yeah. And just to say, most people don't like the idea of doing a relaxation, but when they do it, they love it. So,
Yes.
so you might have your idea, you might have an idea in your head that you've got to lie there, and you think, how am I going to lie there? My mind is, just not suited for this. You should be definitely doing it. And the more that you practice it, and the relaxation, it has more of a purpose to it. So it's not just lie there and try and relax. It's a guided meditation. But it's also a great time where your mind is probably the most sympathetic to your goals and to your dreams and your wishes and your wants. So it's an amazing time, and there are times in the relaxation where we advise people to bring up their goals. So it's a good time if you really would like your goals to become a reality to do those relaxations. So if I could encourage anybody to do them, I absolutely think it makes such a difference.
Yes.
People love them. It really makes such a difference. We've talked about sleep, but sleeping more is important. So that's point number 8. Then point number 9, your body needs a break. So sometimes a change is good as a rest is as good as a change, either or. And we've really covered that. It's just to try and get the person their body almost to reset. But yeah, people often overtrain, but we have covered that. And then, is there anything else you want to say on that before I just...
Nope, that's perfect. Get Pantac. Pantac, actually, after discussing it today, I'm going back on Pantac. I think it's good. It's a good supplement for people to take.
Yeah, 100%. The final point, actually, it is worth looking at. Sometimes you might need to check with your doctor. If you feel that you're doing everything right, there may be something that you might need to just get checked out. And it's not to alarm anybody. It's nothing like that. But sometimes you just might need to see, is everything okay? Maybe you can get a hormone test, or things that can affect weight loss include your thyroid might be a little bit slower. You'll still be able to get results. So often we talk to people during the week and they say, I've just been diagnosed with low thyroid. It's very, very common. And even when you get tested, sometimes you can be very close to the limit and your blood test will come back as normal. So there are things you can do to help to boost your thyroid. And so it is worth looking at those sort of things. And it's great feedback for us if you do get a test and find that your thyroid maybe has slowed down a little bit. There are some things to do. And sometimes it can be just literally, getting the right nutrition and giving your body a bit of a boost, right?
Yeah, well, in my experience with the thyroid, Jamie, a lot of women have it. It's quite common, and usually the thing that I'm told in the consultation is, I've tried everything and nothing works for me. I have a thyroid problem, and the minute they follow our plan, which is proper nutrition, really good foods, educating yourself on how to get your metabolism working right, and combining it with resistance training, they all get results. I have not, to date, I have not worked with one person with an underactive thyroid who hasn't got results, but they have to be stricter than there is no breaking it or whatever. They have to be very strict. Then really get the results then.
So for everybody watching, I've just put up a link to our guide. We created a short link for you. So that the short link is bit.ly, and /Educogym _April_guide. And that will give you all the 26 pages or whatever it is, 22 pages of tips. On the last page, there is an option, a link to join our 28-day challenge. Our online challenge, which has proven to be really, really successful. People are getting incredible results. So if anything made sense to you today and you'd like to train with us or be coached by us, we'd obviously love to have you, because we're absolutely passionate about getting results with people. Is there anything else that you would like to add, Jacqui, that
No,
you think of?
I think we've covered an awful lot there, but people just don't beat yourself up.
No.
Plateauing is part of the process, and that's where you need to just, if you know you're following the plan, you just keep with your plan, because the worst thing that can happen is that scales dictates your throwing you off track. So if you're sticking with it, you will get a result. And I know that I've worked with clients in the past where things could stall. It could stall for 3 weeks, and on the 4th week, suddenly they see a huge drop, not just on the scales, but in their measurements as well. So, just don't get yourself discouraged. Know that you're doing the work and you will get the results.
Yeah, and to say that when you're gaining weight, it does take a long time to gain weight. So you do need to eat excessive calories. So you might get that initial bump in weight that we've talked about, which can often be fluid.
Yeah.
But to actually gain a pound, you need to eat excess 3,500 calories. Honestly, people find it difficult to eat that level of calories, excess calories. So, maybe your normal calorie intake should be 1,800, 2,000 calories. You have to eat 3,500 on top of that. It's very
Yeah.
difficult to do, and it's difficult to
Actually,
do it consistently.
Jamie, on that topic, I actually think maybe one of the talks we might cover someday is actually for people who want to gain weight. Because, actually, we do have clients that come into us and they are the greyhound breed, and no matter what they do, they can't put weight on. But there's a science to that too. So maybe just for those minority out there, we may cover a topic on gaining weight for the greyhounds.
That's it. And
Yeah.
you'd be surprised, actually. I used to struggle to gain weight, and I have to say it's much more challenging. You have to work really hard at it to gain weight, much more so than losing weight, actually. People often think, for people who are trying to gain weight, say, oh, you're so lucky. I'm struggling to lose weight, and you're talking about gaining it, but actually people who really want to gain it can really make a difference. We've got a few questions that are coming up on our Facebook page. Anita, who's watching, thanks. Great to see you, Anita. Hope you're doing really well. And she said, is there anything that you can do to boost your thyroid?
Well, yes, by eating more protein and by lifting weights, but you can also take a product called etomidine. It's got iodine in it, and there is a way that you can use that to help boost your thyroid. And kelp can be got in health stores as well, and that's been known to help your thyroid. Would you have any other suggestions, Jamie?
Yeah, any of those sort of seaweed products, kelp, dulse, any of those that would have a little bit more iodine could help. Dairy, if you've cut out dairy, one of the things you need to realize, and we covered it in a topic with Martin Ford. So people are obsessed with cutting out dairy, and unfortunately that tends to be people's best source of iodine, and iodine is so good for your thyroid. So just be aware of that if you have cut out dairy and you've noticed a drop in your thyroid levels, your metabolism, it could be linked to a reduction in iodine. Anita, yes, it is possible to get the supplement etomidine. We would recommend that etomidine is taken under the supervision of a nutritionist. I think it's very, very important. But if you contact us directly, we will do our best to advise you. And
Amino Energize as well, Jamie. I'd like to say Amino Energize. I think that's a great supplement to take for people with an underactive thyroid also.
Absolutely. Yeah. Somebody's just talking about, if you're on thyroid medication, we have had people, the thyroid is just very, very tricky. So you do want to be definitely working with somebody who's expertise in this area. But if you were taking in some levels of iodine, it depends on the type of condition that you have with your thyroid. But sometimes taking in iodine can help you to reduce the amount of thyroxine or any other meds that you're taking for your thyroid. But seriously, it is one of those areas that you do really want somebody who's familiar with thyroid before you start really messing with it. Let me just see, there's some other comments. I'm just trying to see if I can get them all up. Yeah, thank you, Eileen. Thank you, Anita. I can't see any more comments just because of some way the way the page works. So anybody, if you do have questions, I'm looking at the main page. I know we are live on YouTube. We are live on different groups, Life Force group. You're very welcome if you're joining us today. So we really hope that you've enjoyed our conversation. Do follow that link, download your guide. You'll get a series of emails just to help you along with it. And we would love to have you on our 28-day program, our challenge, or if you'd like to train with us month to month, we would absolutely be thrilled to have you. We know we can get you some incredible results. And for those of you that are going to watch this later, really, I hope you I hope you enjoyed it.
And Jamie, just
Yep.
to say, next week we have a special guest, a very dear friend of ours, who's going to come on live with us, and she is in the energy business. So she is going to discuss all of her amazing results by applying the whole area of the Educo model. So we are super excited to have this special guest. So make sure to tune in next Saturday.
Absolutely, that will be a blast. If you want to get a boost to your energy from listening to somebody else who is extremely high energy, you'll absolutely love watching her. So thank you very much, everybody, for joining us. We are getting slightly shorter, but only by a couple of minutes. So never mind, it was all good. So thank you very much, everybody, and we will see you again next week. Have a great one. Have a great weekend. See you.
Bye.
Bye.